Hey, we'd like to invite our dear, dear friend, Miss Aoife O'Donovan, onto the stage. Give her a hand!
Yeah! Yay, Aoife! Whoa!
Thanks, Google. This is awesome.
Chris, you heard about this gig?
Wait, sorry, just say it. Sometimes I just forget where I am.
The song is called Here and Heaven.
Between here and heaven, between the wait and the wedding, for as long as we both shall be dead, to the world beyond the boys and the girls trying to keep us calm. We can practice our lines till we're deaf and blind, to ourselves, to each other, but it's fall, not winter, spring, not summer, cool, not cold, but it's warm, not high, that we forgotten now we're getting old. Forget who we've heard along the way and reach out for a strange hand to hold, someone strong but not bold enough to tear down the wall. 'Cause we ain't lost enough to find the stars and cross white line of my far hard, not soft into fall, not winter, spring, not summer, cool, not cold, but it's warm, not high, that we all forgotten that we're When it's fall, that winter, spring, that summer, cool, night cold. When it's warm, that high we are, the folk I know it getting.
Thanks.
Miss Aoife O'Donovan, ladies and gentlemen. the infamous Quarter Chicken Dark from our new record, Goat Rodeo Sessions.
Isn't it sort of exactly what you're talking about? Everything you do at Google is a goat rodeo?
That's actually a really good way for putting it, yeah.
Right, so we don't really need to talk about it because you all know what that's about.
That's the easy answer.
But I do, I think that precision isn't inherently soulless. And I think actually that people often err in thinking, I mean, obviously that if you perceive something to be soulless, it probably is. But precision wouldn't necessarily be the reason for that, I don't think.
One man's soulless is another man's precise.
That's also true. I don't know what you're saying.
I meant soul. I meant one man's soulful is another one's precise.
Oh, I see. So I think that and soul is also you get into such a funny spot. I can hear something that I think possibly was let go. Let sort of depart from the studio on a record, because possibly it was perceived as being soulful, and it's just bad. Mm-hmm. It's just off, wrong, out of time.
On this record?
No.
Thanks for clarifying.
No, but I think the twain can exist together. Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to add one thing. Is that I suspect that everybody in this room probably does a number of things really well, and that seem on paper they may seem contradictory, but they actually work when you put them in the right environment. And just for starters, Stuart, I think, actually studied to be an engineer, which we would not have known. And
I didn't know that.
well, now you know.
Study?
Well, okay, fine. That Edgar could have been a mathematician, and in many ways is when he's composing. That my friend Chris is a great mixologist. You may not know that.
Math,
You may not. Exactly. And Aoife, I'm just not going to even start. So that's.
Can't do anything else.
Did you want to add something, Chris?
No.
There.
Just muttering under my breath.
Oh no, I was just. The nice thing about mixology is that I think it impairs people's ability to judge the quality. I am great at that, though, man.
Impairment.
One of the best.
Awesome. So let's touch upon the genesis of the project itself. I know all of you have very different backgrounds from a musical perspective. What compelled the chosen instrumentation? Was it a decision to work together as artists that came before the pieces, or?
Certainly it was a choice of the individual personalities and voices above the actual instrumentation. Mm-hmm. If we were going to look for an ideal instrumentation, we would have tried to get a string quartet or something, but...
You would have never looked for a mandolin.
To go with 3 other bowed instruments. It's not exactly a perfect. It's a goat rodeo.
I mean, in fact, one of the... We decided that these were the ideal voices and personalities that would be really great to work together, but in actuality, if the 3 bows and the 1 plucked instrument, we also made a decision from the first day that we were going to do a lot of mixing up instrumentation-wise. Stuart and Chris and I would all play several different instruments, which we went ahead and did. And at that point, we felt like the sound became a little more complete.
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead. Yep. Is it improvised? Is it written down? Is the music written down? Is it sort of like a jam session meets a classical composition in a bar type of deal, or is it?
Anyone?
It's a little bit of everything, and we'd love for it to sort of bleed into itself. Not necessarily to hear what's composed and what's improvised. I mean, improvisation is essentially very fast composition.
Exactly.
At best. Sometimes it's just
less
finger
good
wagging.
composition.
Sometimes
It's a form of cramming.
For instance, on that last piece we just played towards the end of Attaboy, I wasn't sure where Yo-Yo was, and so I just started playing where I thought he was. I wasn't quite sure because we sort of got off.
I wasn't sure I was either.
I had a general picture of where the chords would go, but I wasn't sure if we had 2 more times or 3 more times before the tag, and so I had to be very alert to watch Chris's. If I got the hairy eyeball from Chris, I knew that it was time to go to the tag.
And Chris,
he gave it to me too. I'm really
Chris,
thankful.
Chris whispered something.
So that in that moment, it was definitely improv.
I didn't know what he said.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got sort of, really? What? And I just also made an estimate. And as usual, when I jump someplace, I fall into a puddle. And that's,
The classical mosh pit.
mosh pit.
But in all seriousness, to sort of answer your question, I think our desire was to create a kind of music where you couldn't necessarily tell if it was composed or improv at any given time.
And it works wonderfully.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Enough said. Right?
I guess maybe in different types of music and, within the small group playing, which, would be thought of as a band outside of classical music, and it would be thought of as chamber music within classical music, there is a desire to want to kind of live and breathe, to kind of be able to breathe as one person, to feel everything together. And so in that sense, I think we were just looking for that aesthetic that's kind of common to a lot of different small group music. Just trying to create that, but in our own way, which kind of respected all of our different individual voices.
One of the things we talked about earlier today as a group was the ecological term edge effect, which many of you know is when 2 different ecosystems meet, forest, savanna, the kinds of life forms you have the least density of life forms, but you actually have the most variety of new life forms. And Edgar likes to talk about going to the edge of the cliff, the risk factor.
I want to see what's over there.
Yeah, he wants to look over the edge. But on the other hand, he really always favors giving people something that they know, that's familiar, and then you could go on an adventure, with that. And so I think we all probably as a group enjoy going to the edge because it's thrilling to discover new life forms. It's thrilling to to take from what you know and try something that really hasn't quite happened in the same way before, which, by the way, seems to be the right environment that we're in to do this kind of thing, because that's what you're all doing. I think that is one of the best ways to define creativity.
Exactly. Without the constraints of any particular art form, creativity can flourish, is what you're saying.
With the constraints of every art form, you then can actually remake a certain number of frames that actually make sense to each life form that you stem from, and that it's so it's an organic process, and that it's recognizable in at least 2 places.
So it's
Because
like
any of those
diagrams.
existing art forms were established in a similar way. They were themselves just sort of compilations.
But isn't that, if just for show of hands, does that make sense with the kinds of work that you're all doing? Just raise your hands if you think you agree, or if you disagree, don't raise your hand.
Or if you,
Okay.
or maybe if you just like Yo-Yo, you can.
Yeah, if you like.
What we're saying is a supposition. This may or may not be true with everybody in this room, but we're, making this hypothesis that may be in fact something that we all share.
It's at least something for us to build on. As far as you have to start making decisions. Composition is a process of option elimination. When everything is available to you, you'll just sit there with your buddies and drink coffee and not get anything done. And, you sort of have to decide what you're not going to do as at the same time as you decide what you are going to do. And I think for us, that's one of the things that unites us is the love of sort of being pushed to the brink, establishing something that we consider, I think, establishing trust and respect in the same way that we're trying to give people who might be listening reference points and just things so they can find their footing before we attempt to whisk them off into uncharted territory. I think that's what we like, so that's what we want to present.
I think one of the things we talk a lot about is how we got together without really going through a vetting process. We're kind of self-chosen because I think what we used as criteria was actually our intuition and our ears. It was, and trust. What I think we basically, when Edgar and Chris said, I think we should work with Stuart Duncan, and I had never met Stuart until last year, and my first thought was, absolutely. This is, if they think so, and then they said, Aoife, and we all thought, absolutely. And that's really strange because usually, you check out roommates, you check out, you go on Craigslist, you do all and you do all these things, but somehow that kind of, and I think as musicians, you practice intuition all your life, instinct plus experience, and then you learn to trust it, I think, right? And then you go for precision, but it's not precision before.
I guess it also helps that you're all at the very top of the food pyramid in the music world.
I don't know. We had cabbage last night. Is that part? Is that?
So we're like refined sugar.
Just tell me where that fits in. I just wonder.
I like it. Refined sugar and saturated fat. Yeah.
White bread.
That sounds more. If you
Mini
sounds more
bites
global.
at Chili's.
If you call
Is that considered like really really high up on the food chain?
3 for 2 at
Yeah, there we go.
Applebee's.
Oh, food chain. Yeah.
more global if you call it trans fat.
Oh, okay. Trans fat.
The topic of food. I'm kidding. Being at Google, which is not only a technology company, but also a very influential media company, we tend to take social media very seriously, YouTube, Google+. And I'm wondering, as you all are at the sort of apex of your careers and have sort of endured very long-lasting careers, how social media has played into that, the success of your careers, if at all.
I don't know, Yo-Yo. Did you look at clips of me on YouTube before you knew who I was?
No, but I know that certain one of us go on Twitter a lot, Facebook, yep, and I wonder whether it's somewhat age related because
Totally.
My children, for example, is and I'm the oldest guy here.
I'm close.
And he's second oldest, and Stuart is, and then we have
A gap.
A gap, and Chris and Aoife somehow are in social media. Don't you find that it's age related? I mean, do your parents go on, social media?
They watch videos of me and my brothers, yeah.
My dad is now
But
tweeting.
you are very popular on YouTube. Like, you all have number
Have
of
y'all
millions
seen that
of-
thing with
of
Yo-Yo and the
videos, of
dancing
views.
guy? Little Buck?
No, I love
That
YouTube.
shit is awesome!
Actually, I think it is so great because these days I can actually find almost anything of any interest. I find it, and it is such a great thing, and it is making my brain.
I
go
think
crazy.
one thing that social media is doing, and I think it can be great, and it's also it can be dangerous. Is that I think it's sort of muted the impact of the established filters as far as what sort of art gets into the public conscious, and I think that at the end of the day, that's really great. I think we're in a slightly awkward period with it, where people are not quite sure what to do with all of the power that used to be sort of distributed amongst these figureheads, whether it was, whoever the head editor of Rolling Stone,
Right, or the record labels.
or the record labels pitching, just deciding this is what you're going to hear. Now you hear everything, and I think we're in a slightly awkward phase with it, where people aren't sure exactly where to find, how hard to look, and sort of how to appreciate it.
I was fascinated because with the song that Chris and Aoife sang. When I asked them to really read us again the lyrics, because I think I'd love for you to speak to that in terms of the content of the lyrics and how it refers to a slight mistrust of strong emotions. Will you speak to that?
Yeah.
And how it affects, how that is either, part of us or somehow something that we now feel that it's harder to deal with?
Well, I think that directly ties into the whole conversation about a muted sense of what's being offered to us through social media, through YouTube, or through just in general the news, really at all these days. In the chorus of that song, we say, it's fall, not winter, spring, not summer, cool, not cold. So it's not extreme. It's just sort of what you can handle. Everybody likes fall and spring. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. And I think Chris and I were kind of trying to tap into that as it relates to human relationships, specifically romantic relationships, in the song Here in Heaven. He started it, and I kind of added on.
Which is good. I feel like I've in our professional lives, we seek out very strong feelings. I can't even. I would rather hate something than be okay with it. Honestly, I find that much more amusing. And of course, I'm looking for things that I.
What about love something?
Well, yes, but just to take it to an extreme other place.
It often happens after we finish playing. I'll go, well, I was a little worried. He goes, no, you were okay. It's okay.
No, but I think we're actually very comfortable as we've studied our whole lives to do this. This is what we do, and we're very comfortable, I think, seeking out very extreme situations where it's maybe high risk with high potential payoff, creatively speaking. And I think the two of us were talking about how that's possibly, there's like nothing left for human relationships, particularly romantic relationships, where you're just kind of going, I'm tired. I want something really, really normal. And so that song, it took it a step further, where I just feel like talking to friends of mine. There's a lot of fear out there about experiencing something deeply, and it does, of course, you let someone in, they have the potential to hurt you, and I think it's that way with a lot of things.
And music becomes the outlet by which you express yourself.
Now tie that into Facebook.
Google Plus before you get attacked on stage.
I think none of us are on Facebook anymore, really, because I
I'm
just
not on
deleted
it.
my Facebook account.
I've
So,
actually-
amen.
My mom has one. I don't have one.
For what this is worth, I've actually never been on a Facebook or a Google Plus
Google Plus
page.
I can show you how to do it.
I don't want to know how.
On that note, I think we actually have to wrap up. But
My favorite thing in all of technology is how Google changes on the holidays. I love that.
Thank you.